Today I'm learning about just who the heck owns Antarctica.
Oh my god. Fortune and prizes.
Oh my god.
Perhaps
Is that
the oddest.
for real? That must be a UK joke that's going over my head right now. Hello everybody, Roger says hey. So a few weeks back, I did my very first Foreman / Mattmin video. It went down really well and I had a ton of requests down in the comments to do another one. So I was browsing around the YouTubes the other day and came across this one, their brand new one about who owns Antarctica. And I remembered that in one of my more recent videos, I had a few people recommend this video to me. So I thought, why the heck not? So I know the Brits are down there, and I also know that the US has a military base along with a few scientific bases down there. But other than that, I had absolutely no idea. So I did just some very quick preliminary research going into this. And I found out that there were actually 66 bases or stations down there. I think they range from scientific to military, but only like 37 of them are occupied year-round. So apparently summer is the more popular time to go down there, which makes perfect sense. And of course summer in the southern hemisphere is different than the north, is the opposite. So they have summer during our winter, which is kind of like weird to think about. So there can be anywhere between like 1,000 and 4,000 people that work down in Antarctica at any one time, but they're never there like really full-time. You know, they come and go a lot. And there's also up to like 45,000 visitors every year there. And I think it depends on like what boats can get through. I did read that sometimes you get stuck down there for like months at a time because the boats can't get through due to ice or something like that, which absolutely terrifies me. I don't think I would be brave enough to actually go down to Antarctica because like what if a medical emergency happened or something like that? Like I've had appendicitis before, and of course I had to go in and get surgery immediately. So like what if that happens down there? Although I think I've read that you can't go to Antarctica without having your appendix out. That may be a complete urban myth, but I feel like I've read that somewhere. But yeah, I saw this map of Antarctica and all the bases down there, and apparently it's way more of an international thing than I thought it was. There are a lot of countries that have scientific or military bases in Antarctica. I also saw that there was an Antarctic treaty or something like that, which prohibits you like just going down there without like your government's permission. I think it's like a neutral place, like no country can like claim it. But I have to say that some of the bases look like this, which is not really what you think about when you think about Antarctica. I mean, that looks like a freaking resort. Probably wouldn't be half bad. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get into this video. I'm sure they're probably going to go more into detail about some of the things that I just mentioned. So let's learn about Antarctica.
Today we're asking, who does Antarctica belong to?
Welcome to Mattmen.
We're the men?
And here's
I'll
the
do it properly.
And here's the map.
I do like their sense of humor, that's for
Antarctica is
sure.
the continent you know least about.
When it does have the decency to appear on maps, it tends to be shown as a crinkly white stripe across the bottom.
Or, for those watching in Mercator projection, a massive splodge of white, twice the size of the rest of the world's landmass combined.
What?
So little thought is given to what shape it really, or how big it really, is.
Here on a round Earth is what Antarctica really looks like from below. Deciding which way up this map should be is difficult since every direction is north, but most maps have been standardised this way, with 0 degrees longitude going straight up from the South Pole.
During the winter, the sun doesn't rise for 4 months, and temperatures reach the dizzying lows of minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is the same as minus 60 degrees centigrade.
Surprisingly, it doesn't actually snow a lot. Antarctica is one of the driest places on Earth, and technically the world's largest desert, as well as looking like the world's largest dessert.
It's covered in...
Yeah, I do remember learning that in school about how Antarctica is kind of like a desert. That's interesting. Also, that 60 degrees Celsius and minus 60 Celsius and minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I learned that recently, that they kind of intersect right there, that they're the exact same, which is crazy.
Places on Earth, and technically the world's largest desert, as well as looking like the world's largest dessert.
It's covered in a 4-kilometre thick sheet of ice, littered with
gosh.
perfectly preserved corpses of generations of dead penguins.
Sounds like an
Oh
awful
my
place.
gosh.
It is, but that hasn't stopped people from trying to own it. In the late 19th century, Antarctica was the last bit of the world map yet to be properly filled in. Dozens of brave explorers from Britain, Norway, France and various other seafaring countries all set out for the South Pole in a bid for fame,
Oh my
glory,
God.
fortune and prizes.
And the winners were Norwegians Roald Amundsen and his crew, who, surviving the blistering cold by eating their own dogs,
Sorry, the mustaches distracted me. I have to go back here. Oh my gosh. I love their sense of humor.
pole in a bid for fame, glory, fortune, and prizes.
And the winners were Norwegians Roald Amundsen and his crew, who, surviving the blistering cold by eating their own dogs, became the first humans ever to reach the South Pole on December 14, 1911.
They then spent 3 further freezing cold days taking celestial measurements just to make sure they were in the right spot.
It's a little tiny-ish.
I was right. Let's go. Today, British schoolchildren learn about Amundsen as a small footnote in the story of the much braver British Captain Scott, who reached the pole 33 days after those
Much
naughty
braver.
Norwegians, but at least had the decency to die before he made it home.
Even though Amundsen had done the South Pole, the race to own Antarctica was only just hotting up. Owning more land increased your chances of finding valuable things like gold, zinc and uranium, which Antarctica had lots of.
And so, Norway,
Really?
France and especially Britain claimed they owned the bits of coastline where their early explorers had planted flags.
With no locals to say otherwise, these claims stretched all the way to the South Pole like Trivial Pursuit wedges. Apart from Norway, who, content with being the first to reach the pole, were content with not pretending to own it.
Faced with a blank canvas, colonists were allowed to be as inventive as they liked in coming up with the names for their new Antarctic colonies.
Queen Mary Land, King Edward VII Plateau, Princess Elizabeth Land, Queen Maud Land,
Really?
Graham Land.
But British domination wouldn't last. When Australia and New Zealand got their independence, they also inherited the wedges nearest their coastline that they've been taking care of for the British, and they've continued to hold on to them since.
Did they say what year all of this, or the years that all of this was happening? Because if they did, I missed it, but I'm curious as to when all of this is happening. It looks like maybe the 19th century from the pictures that they're showing. So late 19th century, maybe?
At one point, a small portion of Antarctica was claimed by Nazi Germany, who in 1939 flew over dropping massive darts with swastikas on them. Historians today consider this to be in the top 10 least important things to happen during World War II.
Perhaps
Is that
the oddest...
for real? I want to see
Historians
what
today
the
consider this to be in the top 10 least important...
Nazis claim a small portion of Antarctica. Argentina declares war on Germany. Did that happen? Are these made up, or does this stuff really happen? Nazis make special stamps. Okay, this doesn't seem real. Hamburgers are renamed Liberty Steaks in the US to sound less German. Okay, yeah, I think all of these are made up. I don't really know whether to take these guys seriously or not, so let me know if the Nazis actually did try to claim part of Antarctica.
important things to happen during World War II.
Perhaps the oddest claims come from Chile and Argentina, who in the middle of the 20th century suddenly remembered that they already owned Antarctica before it was even discovered.
In the 1400s, when Spain and Portugal were colonising South America, they made a deal to split the continent between them in a dead straight vertical line.
And because South America hadn't been fully explored in those days, the deal made no mention of where the line stopped.
Centuries later, with Antarctica now discovered, the ex-Spanish colonies of Argentina and Chile politely suggested that the line might end at the South Pole, meaning these bits of Antarctica would technically belong to them, specifically the bits directly south of their own borders, which meant their claims slightly overlapped each other's and massively overlapped Britain's.
The only wedge of Antarctica not claimed by any nation was this section here, Marie Byrd Land, remote and hard to get to even by Antarctican standards, making it the largest expanse of land on the planet not claimed by anyone.
And that's how
Except for
we
the
got
big
to this
one.
colourful cartographic confusion today.
Overlapping territory, rival disputes, exactly what sort of exciting dramatic consequences did this have?
None.
Good.
Britain didn't seem to mind overlapping territory with Chile and or Argentina. It simply ignored them and continued pretending to own the place. Chile and Argentina returned the favour by simply ignoring Britain.
This was all fine and hilarious, and none of it mattered, until...
It's the Cold War. Almost every conflict around the world is in some way related to the ongoing personality clash of the two great superpowers,
Let me guess, the US is about to come in.
the United States and the Soviet Union. So if you live on a large, remote, disputed landmass, you might want to prepare yourself for some
What the
nuclear
heck?
weapons testing.
Because the mood on the international stage was all the countries involved and several more countries who weren't involved felt that in order to keep hypothetically peaceful Antarctica actually peaceful, they might have to, at the very least, hold a meeting.
In 1959, they all signed a big piece of paper called the
US
Antarctic
USA. Chile, Norway, Argentina. That's hilarious. Okay, I actually have to read this. The Antarctic Treaty. The governments of Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, the French Republic, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, the Union of South Africa, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and Berwick upon Tweed. That must be a UK joke that's going over my head right now. And the United States of America, recognizing that it is in the interest of all mankind, but not womankind because it's the 50s. I don't know, to me mankind includes everybody. That Antarctica shall continue forever to be used exclusively for peaceful purposes and shall not become the scene or object of international discord. Acknowledging the substantial contributions to scientific knowledge resulting from international cooperation and scientific endeavor, we, the undersigned, all agree to be excellent to each other. Obviously a very simplified version, but you get the gist. And this was 1959. Okay, so this was like Cold War era, as I just said.
Antarctic Treaty.
Antarctica is the common heritage of all mankind. It should be perfectly and peacefully preserved for future generations, literally forever. Oh, yes. So, will you all give up your territories?
So they came up with a compromise. All nations who already had colonies on Antarctica could keep them, as long as they never expanded or changed them, and no one was allowed to make any new ones, which meant the map was effectively frozen. Two countries to whom this rule did not apply, by the way, were the USA and USSR, who uniquely were, and still are, allowed to make their own new territorial claims on Antarctica if they ever fancy it. Because, you know,
really
big.
In return for being able to hold on to their
Big.
claims, all the countries agreed to the following rules.
No mining, no military, no nuclear waste, no explosions, no heavy petting.
This meant that countries technically could still own the place, but they weren't allowed to do anything that made it look like they owned the place.
Well, doesn't the US have a military base there? Or some sort of military station? So they must have broken that rule or something.
That countries technically could still own the place, but they weren't allowed to do anything that made it look like they owned the place. They both owned it and didn't own it.
Clever. The Antarctic Treaty is still upheld today, and as a result of its success, it's the world's largest nature reserve. A vast, stunningly beautiful, totally unspoiled wilderness.
Apart from the more than 3,000 scientists in hundreds of research stations from every country you can think of,
And more than 44,000 tourists a year.
tourism in Antarctica is now more popular than ever as big, huge, polluting cruise liners arrive for people to gawp at the ice sheets.
Everyone is asked to leave Antarctica exactly as they found it, which means everyone's favourite Antarctica fact, you have to take your poo home with you.
Oh,
You don't
God.
want to look in those.
But perhaps the biggest threat to Antarctica is climate change. In the last decade, Antarctic ice melt has led to over 4 millimeters of global sea level rise, resulting in catastrophic consequences across the blah 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 blah.
The precious Antarctic Treaty will expire in 2048, which sounds like ages away, but actually gets closer every 5 minutes.
Depending on what sort of leaders are in charge or what mood the international community is in, the treaty could end up being scrapped in favour of expensive ice hotels,
Or quad bike racing tracks.
or a Southern Lights themed music festival,
Or huge movie sets for movies set in the Antarctic.
or perhaps just good old-fashioned resource exploitation and all-out war.
Either way, the human race is going to have to decide what kind of future it envisages for cold, white, barren, faraway territories held together by fragile treaties.
Because Antarctica isn't the only one that's worried.
I have to watch this. You guys told me to watch these ads at the end. You've completed Netflix.
Yes, Jay?
I've completed Netflix!
What?
There's nothing else to watch on TV!
You mean you've watched every single show on UK Netflix?
Yeah, it took me ages!
Well, why don't you have a look and see what's on American Netflix?
Because we're not in America?
But you can use Surfshark.
What's Surfshark?
Surfshark is a... Sorry.
VPN?
Surfshark is a VPN, an app and a browser extension that lets you virtually place your laptop, phone, tablet or TV in any country in the world, so you can access content that's not available in your country. Brits can use Surfshark to watch American Netflix, Americans can use Surfshark to watch British Netflix, Australians can use
Why is he
Surfshark to watch
watching a
Canadian
Saw?
Amazon Prime, Germans can use Surfshark to watch French Netflix, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
Can I use Surfshark on my laptop?
Yes.
Can I also use Surfshark on my phone?
Yes.
What, all on the same account?
Yep, Surfshark allows you to have one account on an unlimited number of devices.
Is a side effect of using Surfshark that it masks my IP address and helps protect my identity online, making my internet safer?
Yes.
Can I use Surfshark on my Rubik's Cube?
Try it and see what happens.
Surfshark.
If you want to try out Surfshark, then just click the link in the description and use the code MAPMEN to get 83% off Surfshark plus an extra 3 months for free. And best of all, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's basically a free trial. So there's nothing stopping you from just trying it out.
It hasn't made any difference.
Well, it was worth a try.
my
Okay,
God.
thanks for the advice about Surfshark, Mark. Goodbye.
Alright, well there we go. There's Matt Min's latest video. I really do like their sense of humor. It's kind of right up my alley. So some really interesting thoughts on Antarctica, especially getting towards the end there where they're kind of thinking about, well, what happens after 2048? I'm actually surprised that there's an expiration date for this treaty. I would think that it would just kind of like keep going, but I don't know, maybe they'll extend it, who knows? But yeah, I really do hope that Antarctica never becomes a point of contention between countries. I hope that that spirit of cooperation persists indefinitely definitely. Kind of like the same thing with space, and when it comes to exploring new territories, whether it's in space or on our own planet in the oceans or Antarctica, whatever, it's always better for us if we can cooperate and put our collective knowledge and experience together. What they didn't show in that video though was the American expansion in Antarctica. It showed every other country except for the United States and I guess Russia as well, so I still don't really know exactly what America's role is down in Antarctica. So yeah, a really good general overview, but I feel like that they kind of glossed over a couple of things that I would have liked to have learned more about, but maybe that's for a future video. I'm also kind of wondering what's the difference between Antarctica and the North Pole, because I know that there are some cities, and I think the US even has a military base super close to the North Pole, or maybe on the North Pole, but the North Pole is not explored or inhabited anywhere near like Antarctica is. So why is that exactly? Is it just harder to access up there, or is it because countries like the US, Canada, and Russia have land pretty much going up into the North Pole area, and so you really would have to pass through those countries to get to it, so it's more surrounded by countries instead of open ocean like Antarctica is. Maybe that's why. I did have a friend that worked on Antarctica for like 6 months or something like that, and he really enjoyed it. He had a fun time doing that. It's kind of like one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences, except I don't want to have that experience. I'll just leave all of the exploring of Antarctica to other people. So anyway, I'm going to enjoy doing more Mapmin videos in the future. Let me know which ones I should do. Which ones would you like to see? But if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe. Roger and I have a ton more content coming your way, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.